But why is it a special sleight of hand? Linde continued reading and saw the words written at the very bottom. The Mage's sleeve is a prerequisite sleight of hand for future mage skills in mage space. Please make sure to learn it. I see, so it can actually be evolved after all. At once Linde grew interested and began reading seriously. The magical knowledge in the book drew him in, and the girl's notes helped clear up his doubts. Like a sponge, he began soaking up the secrets of magic. Time flew quickly and Linde gained a general understanding of the various sleights in the book. He picked 5 sleights he could use, which were: Cleanse Mage's Hand, Toxin Identification, Ignite Mage's Sleeve. My personal combat level is above that of a bronze warrior, and with the aura my ability to protect myself is sufficient. Some combat-oriented spells are of little use to me. Instead, these functional spells prove far more helpful. Having made his decision, Linde prepared to begin practicing meditation while also considering whether he possessed any extraordinary talent. At that moment a firm knock echoed at the door. Linde set his book down and said, "Please come in." The door opened, revealing Steward Sasai. "Young Master Linde, the old Earl is asking for you. He wants you to come to the Great Study." Chapter 7 Secret. What does the old Earl want with me? Linde was utterly perplexed. Most matters concerning the domain had already been planned, and all that remained was for him to assume his position. There shouldn't be much else left to do. "I will go immediately." Upon hearing this, the old steward withdrew to attend to other duties. Linde closed the book and clenched his fist. Since that night when he first activated the aura-imbued state, Linde had kept the aura switched on always at its maximum range, allowing him to continuously monitor the lifeforms around him. The approach and condition of all other living beings can be detected at any time, preventing incidents like being silently approached from behind as had happened before. Linde walked casually down the corridor where the servants all saluted him as he passed. Under the watchful eyes of those around, Linde arrived at the old Earl's great study. Knock, knock. Linde knocked firmly on the door, and the old Earl's deep voice responded from within. "Enter." Linde pushed open the door and saw the old Earl seated at the desk by the study's large window, with Astaire sitting upright and formal in the guest chair beside him. "Enough, Astaire, go prepare yourself. I have important matters to discuss with Linde now." "Yes, my lord." Linde watched as Astaire left the room, and once the door was closed he asked, "Father, what is it you wish to discuss?" Count Truck stood and patted Linde on the shoulder. "How is your wound healing?" "It has mostly healed. There is nothing serious remaining." "Good. The reason I summoned you today concerns your new tutor." Seeing the puzzled look on Linde's face, the old Earl continued, "Do you know why our previous war with the Sath Empire went so smoothly? Was it because the Grand Duke personally took action?" No. Even if it were the Grand Duke, a knight of the shining gold rank could not force open the gates of the fortress city." The old Earl paused briefly. "It's because of a new weapon, a magical one." This left Linde somewhat puzzled. What does that have to do with Alice? Did she make the new weapon? The old Earl shot Linde a sharp glance. "Not exactly. It was created by her mother." Her mother is the current head of the Royal Clear Magic Academy, Luli Erna. This woman has some connection to your mother. She was once your mother's teacher." Linde was momentarily speechless. He knew his mother had studied further at the Magic Academy, but he had not expected this connection. The old Earl continued, "That's not the point. The important thing is that the Academy head herself belongs to the scholarly faction. After this new weapon was developed, many mages from the old noble faction grew very dissatisfied, believing it infringed upon their interests. They jointly impeached the head, demanding a ban on the development of such new weapons, and then, fearing her daughter might become entangled, she sent her daughter here under the guise of education." Linde began to understand the upper ranks of the Crati Empire were intricately intertwined with the new nobility outside, controlling vast lands and populations wielding substantial wealth. Although the old noble territories near the capital were small, they held significant power and mage resources. As the leader of the scholarly faction backed by the new nobility, Dean Luli naturally drew the attention of many established noble families. Those noble mages controlled most of the elder seats in the Magic Academy and frequently pressured the Dean's faction through their numerical superiority. "Exactly, or else it means you'll be going to the Magic Academy to study." Linde thought to himself, "Forget it. I have no desire to attend that ancient noble school and mingle with those foppish boys. So the reason I've summoned you this time is to make you more vigilant and to protect that young lady carefully. It wouldn't be good if something happened to her while she's in our care." Linde smiled inwardly. How could that be difficult? "Then, my esteemed Lord Father, should you provide your poor son with some supplies? After all, the task of protecting someone isn't an easy one." "Ha, you bratty, or even blaming me now?" The old Earl smiled and said, "I have just instructed Astaire to select another 400 guards for you from the legions, so rest assured." Upon hearing this, Linde was initially overjoyed but soon frowned, pleased that his military strength had grown, yet burdened by the thought of supporting an additional 400 soldiers. Seeing the troubled expression on Linde's face, the old Earl seemed to see right through him. He smiled and said, "You don't need to worry too much about food supplies, just focus on cultivating your domain. I will soon organize a grain transport caravan to deliver necessary provisions until you become self-sufficient." Hee, that's good. Linde was overjoyed now. The domain's grain supply was secured. "By the way, there is one more thing." The old Earl suddenly assumed a serious expression and said, said. You must study magic diligently over there, don't end up like me completely clueless about magic. This remark took Linde by considerable surprise. In his impression the old earl was not merely a stern old knight but had always looked down upon magic and the like, considering them nothing but gaudy trifles. He believed that it was knights like himself who truly ruled the battlefield. What could have caused such a great change in the old earl? Father, you weren't like this before, were you? Has something happened? Linde asked cautiously. That was in the past. Things are different now, the times have changed. The old earl seemed to recall something as he pinched his forehead while his other hand clasped the family crest. You will understand when you pass through the fortress city. Only by seeing it with your own eyes can you truly grasp what I mean. Though Linde was filled with questions seeing the old earl's demeanor, he decided not to press further. The old earl sighed deeply, clutching the Trusk family crest in his hand even tighter. By the way, your brother will be returning soon. He has just graduated from the Royal Knight Corps. You two have never gotten along since childhood. When do you plan to depart? I have arranged nearly everything on my end. I intend to set off in 2 days. Linde was indeed reluctant to meet this elder brother. Linde and his elder brother had never seen eye to eye. One was the legitimate son of the lawful wife, the other the younger son born of a concubine. His elder brother had looked down on him since childhood and often secretly bullied him until the old earl discovered it. After punishing them, the earl separated their upbringing, a situation that has persisted until now. Very well, so be it. When you go out later, call Sasai in. Yes, father. Develop yourself well. I hope that one day you will be able to uphold the honor of the Truck family. Yes. Linde bowed and then slowly withdrew. Before long the steward Sai arrived at the old earl's study. How is the investigation progressing? No traces of mental magic were detected, nor any signs of having consumed alchemical potions. The old steward paused. It has been essentially confirmed that young Master Linde's injury was indeed an accident. Perhaps I was being overly anxious. Withdraw all those assigned to the search. It is no longer necessary. Yes, sir. Chapter 8: A Lengthy Journey. Year 3471, early January of the Holy Light Calendar. Owing to its latitude, the western continent was marked by dry cold throughout the entire winter. Snow was scarce. The majestic scenes of a world entirely cloaked in white snow were nowhere to be found, much to Linde's disappointment. Throughout this journey Linde found himself overwhelmed by the splendor before his eyes. He personally witnessed many magnificent vistas that until now he had only briefly glimpsed online. The most prevalent sight along the road was the vast mountain range formed by stacks of grayish-white boulders whose majesty was truly breathtaking. Viewed from afar, the mountains stretched endlessly, their end nowhere in sight, resembling a slumbering giant dragon sprawled across the land, evoking an overwhelming sense of boundless desolation. Upon the vast and limitless land grew an endless expanse of primeval forest. Sunlight filtered through the gaps between the leaves, casting dappled shadows. The entire forest was lush and extraordinarily dense. Moreover, there are an array of extraordinarily peculiar magical creatures. Occasionally flocks of enormous birds with fiery red plumage soar across the sky. The commotion in the sky disturbs the beasts below. A herd of massive docile creatures akin to dinosaurs in size proceed slowly. Their steady and powerful steps caused the ground to tremble faintly with each stride. Nevertheless, even these wondrous sights gradually lost their novelty as time passed. Having departed from Truck City for nearly half a month with stops in several minor territories for resupply along the way, the noble title of the Earl's second son proved very convenient wherever Linde went. His next destination was the renowned Fortress City. The entire journey was smooth from the very beginning. Linde remained nestled inside the spacious noble carriage. It must be said that the carriage reserved exclusively for nobility greatly minimized the jolting, ensuring that no matter the terrain the ride was never particularly rough. As Alice put it, truly befitting a great noble family, the suspension of this carriage rivals that of levitation magic. The very next day Alice, under the pretense of instructing Linde, climbed into his carriage, evidently unable to endure the jolting of horseback riding. Linde did not take offense with her present. He devoted himself entirely to the study of magic. Before long Linde's magical aptitude became evident. He swiftly mastered these few illusions, much to Alice's profound surprise. It was not that Linde was a magical prodigy, but rather that she had to blame her dean mother. Originally it was thought that she had been sent by her mother to serve under an earl tasked with instructing a magic novice, especially since this earl's family was famously a lineage of knights and ultimately was regarded as a marriage prospect to curry favor with the nobility. However, after spending several days together, Alice found it very peculiar. She had previously heard that the Truck Earl family was a renowned knightly house that looked down upon mages, yet upon arrival she discovered that the old earl treated her with great kindness. His gaze upon her was not that of viewing an ordinary person, but rather like beholding a cherished treasure. It was said among the nobility that although the second son who inherited the old earl's valor possessed an extraordinary interest and talent for magic, he was never seen training as a knight even once. As Alice's thoughts wandered, the repeated calls from her teacher gradually brought her back to reality. Teacher Alice, are you feeling sleepy?" Linde inquired. The young lady regained her composure and, realizing her rudeness, hastily said, "No, nothing of the sort. What would you like to ask?" "I have already mastered mastered these illusions concerning the matter of becoming an advanced mage. Oh, that's good to hear. The young lady was momentarily stunned, then quickly grasped Linde's arm and exclaimed excitedly, "So soon?" Linde smiled wryly. In fact, he had already mastered everything several days ago. Perhaps it was due to the activation aura. In any case, every time Linde used his mental power, he felt exceptionally smooth. He just delayed telling her for 2 days to avoid startling her. "It's quite alright, these illusions are actually rather easy. Although I am reluctant to admit it, your speed truly surprised me." The young lady composed herself, released Linde's hands, and continued speaking. "In fact, ascending to the rank of mage is quite simple. Once you have mastered these illusions, it indicates that your mental power is sufficient to construct fundamental spells. You only need to meditate, imprinting your first spell upon your mind. A spell thus imprinted requires no incantation, it can be cast with a mere thought." With that, Alice once again drew from her sleeve a book, this one thicker than the previous. This book contains nearly all the elementary spells. You may choose one to study and imprint upon your mind. Of course, if you are sufficiently clever, you may also invent an original elementary spell yourself. Do not forget, it must be an elementary spell. Given your current level of mental power, you will not be able to sustain any advanced spells. Upon hearing this, Linde carefully put the book away. "Very well, thank you, teacher Alice." Stop, the young lady interrupted. "You are now half a mage. There is no need to call me teacher anymore. Just call me by my name, Alice." "Very well, Alice." The young lady appeared significantly more relaxed, her tone becoming light and cheerful. "Very well, it is getting late. I shall be going now." The young lady departed from the carriage like the wind, leaving behind only a faint fragrance. It is nearly time for dinner. At that moment, Linde also felt somewhat hungry, for meditation and mental power training were quite exhausting. As the carriage came to a slow stop as before, the migrating group had already halted to light fires and prepare their meal. Their convoy lingered behind the migrating group. Firstly, there is the fear that serfs might attempt to escape. Secondly, it is quite common for tails to linger at the rear of such migration caravans. Sometimes these are wolf packs, at other times small monsters. Upon seeing the rear guarded by the fully armed aristocratic militia, they usually fail to keep pace beyond a few miles and reluctantly withdraw. At Linde's command, the soldiers began pitching tents, lighting fires, and preparing meals while also maintaining order within the serf camp. Shortly thereafter, Linde entered the newly erected large tent where simple tables and chairs had been set up and a variety of dishes were promptly served. Butter bread wrapped in honey, a glass of room temperature mulled beer, a rich soup stewed with dried venison, and a wild rabbit hunted today by Esther. The rabbit was roasted, most enticingly sprinkled with some unknown exotic spices from another world. "Esther, come sit down and eat with me." Linde called upon this young and faithful knight, a man who by bustling about every day spared Linde considerable effort. Esther said somewhat hesitantly, "I have not bathed for many days and carry some odor. I shall pass." After speaking, Linde paused thoughtfully, then raised his hand and cast a cleanse technique upon Esther. This cleanse technique truly is an excellent tool. Just a few days prior, Linde had wondered how a cleanliness-conscious noble maiden like Alice could maintain hygiene during such a lengthy journey. Alice then cast a cleanse technique upon herself much quicker than bathing, prompting Linde to immediately decide that the first illusion he would learn was the cleanse technique. A flash of blue light flickered by, and while Esther was still dazed, Linde had already pressed him down onto the stool. "It's all right now, please eat." Linde smiled as he looked at Esther, whose face was filled with astonishment. "Sir, you have already mastered magic." The Earl would surely be overjoyed to hear this. It should be noted that Linde had never used magic in their household before. Unexpectedly, the young master also displayed extraordinary talent in magic, truly befitting his noble status. Linde waved his hand. "Ah, it's nothing." With that, he picked up a rabbit leg and began to eat voraciously. Seeing this, Esther no longer held back and began to devour his food eagerly. After all, while soldiers typically ate better than the serfs, their diet usually consisted of meat porridge, dried meat, and hard bread, vastly inferior to the fare enjoyed by a noble like Linde. Perhaps because they had already come into contact with supernatural powers, their appetites seemed especially large, and soon an entire table of food was swiftly cleared. After a satisfying meal, Esther still had to perform a night patrol, so he did not linger here and took his leave. Linde finally waited for a time when there were few people around and began to study the new aura he had gained a few days prior. "Let me examine the strength of this new aura." Chapter 9. What do you mean by this? Host Linde Truck Linde. Aura 1. Activation aura. Activating. Range maximum. Perceive and enhance the biological activity of all organic life within the coverage area. 2. Bright aura not activated. Range none. Increase all brightness within the surrounding area. What use is this system? What do you mean by this? Please explore it yourself. Host. Linde was speechless. This system was truly simplistic, lacking even basic response functions. He decided to act on his own and promptly activated the aura at its minimum range. A dazzling white light radiated from Linde's body, illuminating the entire tent until nothing but whiteness remained. In an instant, it pierced Linde's eyes. "Hey, damn, my eyes hurt so much." Linde quickly deactivated the aura. Once it was off, he felt as if he had been blinded, unable to see anything. After some time, he gradually recovered, though tears continued to stream from his eyes due to the irritation. Linde reduced reduced the active aura to its minimum to restore his eye's condition, and soon his vision returned to normal. It seems I underestimated this aura. It's far stronger than I had imagined. At the very least, as a flashbang to abruptly blind foes, it is quite effective. Under the blessing of the active aura, Linde once again activated the bright aura. The bright white light that had just pierced his eyes shone once more. However, this time with the aid of the active aura, Linde quickly adapted to the intense brightness and began testing the aura's expansion effects. The white light gradually softened as the aura's range expanded, and once it fully enveloped the tent, the entire interior appeared as if shrouded in a layer of dazzling afterimages. Just like Gandalf, Linde remarked. The scene inside the tent now resembled the dazzling light effects Linde had originally seen in the Hobbit film. Then Linde deactivated the bright aura. At this point it likely had little use beyond providing illumination at night. Linde then reactivated the activation aura to its maximum throughout the journey to prevent the serfs' deaths. Linde had kept the aura at its widest range to enhance their constitutions. Once everything was settled, a wave of fatigue gradually overtook him. Sleep. Linde climbed into bed and quickly fell asleep. The entire night passed without a word. Early the next morning, Linde was awakened by a commotion outside. As soon as Linde got up and dressed, he called Astaire inside. "What is the matter? Why is it so noisy outside?" "Reporting, sir, several serfs in last night's group have died. There appears to be some issue regarding their deaths. Take me to see them." These were his future subjects. He felt sorrow even at the death of one, let alone several. "Yes, my lord." Subsequently, during the journey, Linde came to understand everything. After a brief investigation by the guards, it was revealed that this morning, when the opportunity arose, a serf boy discovered the first victim's body. Gradually others were found in the surrounding area. A total of 8 bodies have been found, their blood drained, their hands severed, and their eyeballs missing as well. Linde lifted the white cloth to glance at the body before covering it again. "This is the work of cultists." Linde spoke in a solemn tone. "There are various cults across the continent of Teal. Each is universally condemned." Linde had read of one such cult in the Earl's archives. That is the Dark Desecration Church, which has always opposed the Holy Light Church. The Dark Desecration Church venerates the antithesis of the Holy Light deity, and its followers cover themselves in black paint, piercing their bodies with various metal ornaments. However, this recent cultist attack was evidently not the doing of the Dark Desecration Church, which presents a knowledge gap for Linde. This is the work of the Dedication Society. They take victims' hands and eyes to fashion sacrificial implements, then empower themselves through the ritual offering of the victim's blood. Just as Linde was pondering deeply, a clear, youthful female voice sounded. The speaker was none other than Alice. "Do you understand the true nature of these things?" Alice tucked a lock of hair behind her ear. "Of course, these malevolent beings are thoroughly documented in the Academy's archives. While the Academy preserved their traits and vulnerabilities, it erased all other doctrines and information. This church developed from the Elven Church of the Natural Gods and stands as the opposite of the natural gods. Its adherents delight in destruction and conquest, sacrificing others' lives to their sinister deity. The Holy Church expends considerable effort every year to eradicate these various cultists, yet new cultists continue to emerge and cause trouble. There have even been instances in which members of the Holy Church have been corrupted by the cultists." Upon hearing this, Linde furrowed his brow deeply. It seemed that these matters were quite troublesome. How had he become entangled with such things? "Are you aware of the weaknesses of the Dedication Society's followers? They condense the power obtained from sacrifices into a core within their bodies. If the core is shattered, or if they use its power excessively, they lose control and transform into monsters that are neither fully human nor ghost." After a moment of contemplation, Linde inquired once again, "Then how strong are they?" "The cultists are approximately as powerful as silver warriors. Once transformed into monsters, their intelligence significantly declines to that of bronze warriors." Upon receiving Alice's reply, Linde conceived a plan concerning the effect of his own aura. His activation aura fundamentally stimulates biological activity. If he could activate the core within the cultists' bodies, he could directly transform them into monsters, thereby minimizing casualties. At the very least, he could rely on his activation aura's perception to discern cultists from ordinary serfs. With this in mind, he instructed Astaire, who stood beside him. "Astaire, when the time comes, first assemble the troops and divide them into 2 groups. One group will surround the serf camp while the other enters to maintain order among the serfs and lead them to an open area, telling them that the Lord wishes to speak." "Yes, my lord." Though Astaire harbored doubts, he nonetheless prepared to carry out Linde's orders. As Astaire was about to depart, Linde called him back. "Furthermore, one more thing. When you assemble the troops later, ensure that no one attempts to desert at this critical moment. No one is permitted to leave. If there are matters to attend to, they must be deferred." Linde paused briefly before saying, "If anyone attempts to leave by force, break their hands and feet and detain them. The serfs are to be treated the same, and you must carry this out personally." Upon hearing this, Astaire's expression grew grave. "Yes, my lord, I will not fail to fulfill your trust." With a fierce determination, Astaire accepted the order and departed. Shortly thereafter, unrest began to stir within the camp. The army quickly surrounded the camp, leaving no gaps, and the soldiers of the inner perimeter gradually drove the serfs onto the open ground. Alice asked with a puzzled expression, "Baron Linde, do you have a way to identify the cultists. Linde replied calmly, I am somewhat confident though not entirely certain. Let us observe the cultists' reactions. If that proves unsuccessful, the matter will become quite difficult. Chapter 10 The Dedication Society Cultists. The serfs, seeing their elite soldiers surrounding each of them and recalling the events of the previous night, trembled and knelt on the ground incessantly pleading, yet under the soldiers' stern rebukes their cries gradually fell silent. As the camp inspection concluded, the soldiers took up their positions one after another. Astaire approached Linde carrying a bag in his hand. Sir, just as you anticipated, I have apprehended someone. This is the evidence found on him. With that, Astaire opened the bag to reveal a pair of sinister ritual items woven from human hands. Linde regarded the ominous objects, realization dawning clearly upon him. Who was captured? He is a soldier who enlisted 2 years ago, an ordinary soldier. After I issued orders, he attempted to leave the unit under the pretense of convenience. He was discovered by his comrades while trying to escape. In the process, he wounded a soldier and sought to flee, but I caught up with him, severed his limbs and bound him. Very well, when the time comes, follow my orders to disperse the crowd. Anyone who behaves suspiciously shall be dealt with on the spot.